When I was doing my college auditions, at one of them, there was a particularly hard sight reading component. And at the Berkeley one, it was very like progressive. You would just do like very easy, and then it was a little bit harder, a little bit harder. And your goal was to go as far into the book as you possibly could. And I did fairly well. I was at one, I believe it was at USC, and I think that they just were throwing random excerpts at me. And I clearly could read, but these were pretty tough. And I remember feeling discouraged. I was between being nervous and everything else. I didn't nail the sight reading. And I've become a lot better sight reader since. That was 16 years ago. But I remember thinking, oh man, I know sight reading's hard. I should be putting more time into this. And the person doing the audition, he said, you can clearly read. You just need to practice a lot more. How about you put in 1 hour a day for the next 6 months, and you'll be a great reader. And I've spent the last 16 years waiting for the perfect time to start that 6 month of 1 hour practicing my sight reading. Instead, what I've been doing is chipping away at it a little by little. Every once in a while, I put a whole hour of working on sight reading in, but it's tough. It's very tough. So we're all cut differently. This week, we're talking about bite-sized practice, as promised. Episode 19 on Earth Tones. We're talking about practicing a little bit often and seeing where it goes. I had mentioned that a couple episodes ago that we would talk about bite-sized practice, and then both my friend Mike and my friend Fran said this week I've been thinking about the 5 minutes that you can put in when you can. And for Mike and Fran, let's talk a little bit more about it this week. But first, the Earth Sound of the Week. That is the cars and the wind outside of the studio today on Black Friday. You really feel the fall coming in. We had beautiful weather for this week for Thanksgiving Day. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And now for a bit of old news. Now this is really cool. Now I'm going to probably mispronounce this person's name, but it's spelt, well, I'll try, Bailey Hamdi. I'm not sure if it's Bailey Hamdi or Bailey Hamdi. It's Baligh And he was an extremely interesting Egyptian composer. And he wrote instrumental pop music, which was something that I really didn't know much about. So what I did was I grabbed this book. This is a copy of Maggot Brain, the Third Man Records magazine, and there's so much in these magazines. I've mentioned before, if you get any one of these copies, you could find gems for several years. This is an article, Egyptian composer Baligh Hamdi. Buried instrumental modal pop numbers resurface on Sublime Frequencies. Sublime Frequencies is a record label. It seems to be based out of Seattle, Washington. And these are incredible pieces of music. So I'm going to read something here. By the early 1960s, Hamdi's musical skill was at its most advanced, and he was nearing the realization of his personal goal, quote, to draw from local tradition to access the global. This idea had always been foremost in his conception of modern Arabic music. One must depart from one's own cultural traditions in order to achieve a universal music. Now, you can go onto Spotify or YouTube and look up this record, Instrumental Modal Pop of 1970s Egypt, and you can hear some of these compositions. What I found was very interesting is, first of all, they're beautiful, and they're pretty modern. The fact that they have, modern considering they have like electric guitar, mixed with strings and everything else. It's very cool, very cinematic. In fact, he also composed for soundtracks and worked with a lot of the major Arabic artists of that period. What I found was so interesting is that when I would look up some of the pieces referenced in that article, I would go on YouTube and the performance would be like an hour long. And I was trying to figure out, is this pop music? Is this classical music? Is this opera? And the answer is yes. It's all of these things. And if you look up some of that music, you'll be amazed at how beautiful it is, how composed it is. There's a lot of microtonal type of elements, so the strings and some of the other instruments are able to play microtones in the voice, so they're not in exact tuning like Western scales are with half steps. We have microtones, so they're in quarter steps. Actually, there's a bunch of notes. They have all of our notes plus more. So it's really fascinating. In one of the videos, someone's playing a Stratocaster, and it has very much that like 70s, almost like a spaghetti Western surf type of influence, but mixed with all of the Arabic sounds, which is cool how they lend themselves perfectly with each other, kind of like Dick Dale and Eastern European music. World music and like the Strat clean surf sound go together really well. So Bailey Hamdi, someday I'll figure out how to say his name, but legendary, and I'm going to be listening to a lot more of that. That's a bit of old news, is that compilation coming out. I believe it's 2021 that came out, and this article was written about that as well. So, bite-sized practice, doing what you can. Listen to a little, play a little, work on something. Here you go. Episode 19. There's just too many things to work on. And of course, I didn't have much time to practice this week. Okay, let's think about one thing we do every day. We find time to brush our teeth because we like having clean teeth. And we know we have to. But also, it's just not that much of an investment. But cumulatively, if you brush your teeth for 4 minutes every day, over 10 years, that's 243 hours of brushing your teeth. You'd be surprised how little time is needed to make a big difference. And you can't brush your teeth for 20 minutes on Sunday and not brush again until next week. Consistency is the key. It's a daily practice. Studies show that some of the most significant processes for learning happen while we're sleeping, and a large portion of creative breakthroughs happen subconsciously, where our brain keeps working at problems even when we aren't actively thinking about them. So we need to feed our brains things to work on. Instead of practicing as if you're putting in marathon miles, sometimes give yourself a little challenge and check in. Dive deep for a couple minutes, then let the subconscious do its thing. You may be surprised to find what's difficult today is easy tomorrow. So that's what I've written about. That's the idea of bite-sized practice. It's not even only the fact that those minutes, like brushing your teeth, add up to a lot of hours, because that's certainly true, but it's also what I was saying about the fact that the subconscious needs to be able to digest something. Often my students come in and I say, actually every single lesson, how much did you practice this week? Well, I picked up a guitar a few times. I'd prefer that than, I was able to play on Sunday for a couple hours. And the reason is that by checking in, we continue to call upon those skills, and it strengthens those neural pathways. So we think about like muscle memory, which of course is your brain just figuring out exactly what motions it needs to trigger to play the parts that we need. You need to be able to call upon those skills. There's certain little tricks that we have. Like if you're learning a new chord, you could leave your fingers down and then take all of the fingers off except one of the fingers and tap the other ones into place. So you leave your first finger down and you tap the rest, then you leave your second finger down. And what you're doing is shortcutting the amount of times you've asked your brain to be able to form that shape. So I remember learning a poem, I may have told this story already, where I had to memorize it for school, and I went to bed, and I was getting worse. It wasn't getting any better. I had tried to cram this, and I was getting really freaked out. But I woke up the next morning, and then I had the whole poem together. So sleeping is really what does the trick, and our subconscious is working on something. So if we ask of our brain to it's essentially like delegating something to your subconscious. Like, okay, here's a task that I'm working on. Please, throughout the day while I'm going about my life or driving or sleeping, keep working on how to do that. And when I pick up the guitar tomorrow, we'll see how much progress you've made. So think about your subconscious as being like a little assistant. So yes, practice a little bit every day in order to get the hours to add up. But also, just keep in mind, the reason for doing that is because we want to let our brain keep working on these challenges even when we aren't actively practicing. So a musical demonstration. Well, one of them would be that idea of something that you could play every day. So here's what I call the finger twister. And if you want the tab for this, then you can go to my website. But the finger twister is something I got from a guitar magazine years and years ago. It might have been Joe Satriani. I'm doing it on the B string now. And I won't bore you with the specifics of the fingering, but the idea is it's tricky to figure out at first. And one of your 5-minute sessions might be just thinking about the fingers and saying, what's the order of fingers? Okay, 1 2 1 3 1 4 2 3 2 4 2 1 3 4 3 1 3 2 4 1 4 2 4 3. Wow, I can't believe I actually said that. So that 5 minutes, maybe even for the first week, just figuring out, okay, what's the sequence of the fingers? But probably, if you did that for 5 minutes today, your brain would be thinking about it. Like when I'm driving, especially if I'm waiting in traffic or waiting in line at the grocery store, I'll run little patterns in my brain just thinking about these problems I'm working on in practice. So I'm getting all this additional practice time in that's happening subconsciously or even consciously, but while I'm doing something else. You know, I'm sitting there just in traffic and I'm thinking about, what was it again? It was 1 2 1 3 1 4. So just challenging yourself to do that. Now, you're not probably going to want to do that for 4 hours anyways. So that would be the idea of something being a bite-sized practice routine. It's just little something you're working on that you can come back to tomorrow and see how it's changed. All right, what is on the turntable? Savoy Brown, Raw Sienna. This is from 1970. This is a great record. British blues band. They had different types of success. They certainly had longevity. They played for many, many years. And this record from 1970, I bought it from Mystery Train, downtown Gloucester, for $6.50. I think I just took a chance on it. I think I hadn't ever heard it, and I knew that Savoy Brown was supposed to be a great blues band, and I bought it a long time ago, and today I was looking at the shelf, and I thought, what would be cool? And I actually was looking for a record. I was looking for This Is the Kit, Moonshine Freeze, and instead I pulled out Raw Sienna, and I put it on, and it ended up being perfect. So that seems to be a theme. Last weekend I grabbed a Marshall Tucker Band album just from the stack, and I thought, I don't think I want to listen to this. But I gave it a shot. It wasn't my favorite. It was like a 1980s kind of weird production, but it was an interesting experience. So that's one of the benefits. I don't think on Spotify this Savoy Brown record was going to show up. It's completely something that I like and would like, but if I haven't been listening to something from them or something very like them, it's not going to recommend it. So whether it's a magazine or, a stack of records, being able to interact with something that's not algorithmicized, that's a great way to be able to continue to enjoy curating your own taste and your own interests. So what's something that helped me this week? Something that helped me this week was just being willing to pick up the instrument and see what was going on. I sort of felt like I had some inspiration, and I followed stream of consciousness. I wanted to write this particular song, and I started with a little chord pattern. And I wrote a chord progression. And then I wanted to write lyrics, and I got kind of stuck. And I thought, I haven't really explored the possibility of just stream of consciousness writing. And so I wrote this poem where I genuinely was not considering how to write it in any way. I just had the words come out, stream of consciousness completely, and there were some rhymes, but I ended up writing something that I felt was a very genuine expression, and I sent it to my friend Quinn, and he was like, yeah, I love this. And it's interesting that some of the things that we create, we don't really understand what they are until we almost check them out as listeners or readers ourselves. And I looked back on it, I thought, yeah, it's actually kind of moving because I saw how it meant something. But while I was writing it, it was purely just words that I was connecting one to the next. So something that helped me this week was spontaneous creation, just being willing to feel like, I might have something to say. Let me just say something and not worry about wearing my editing hat. I'm just going to purely stream of consciousness, write some words down. And if something cool comes out, then great. And if not, it was still kind of therapeutic to just express something anyways. So that is episode 19. Take a few minutes to just whatever is something that you prioritize. That's one of the challenges with bite-sized practice. You might think, man, there's so many things I want to do. I want to sight read. I want to get better at rhythm. I want to get this or that. Just ask yourself, what's one category that you really care about? What's something you'd love to get better at? And let that be the thing. Let everything else fall away and let more time go by, and it's okay. Because what usually happens is that we have so many things we want to work on that we don't work on anything at all. So just think, what's at the top of the list? What's something that I didn't enjoy working on? And how about we just put 5 minutes into it today, just today. And then tomorrow, if you do that again, you'll see that it leads to something else. So that is episode 19. Thank you to Fran and Mike for both encouraging me to continue my bite-sized practice and to put in the time with business and music. And thank you for listening as well. All right, episode 19. I have my new song, Train Track. Mike has made the artwork, and I just need to add a little reverb and export it. So that'll be out hopefully next week. And you can visit jakepardee.com for this, the thing you're already listening to, but also the newsletter that I promise will start to be sent in the new year. You can visit maritimerecording.com to learn more about guitar lessons and producing music. And as always, I'm Jake Pardee, your host, signing off, reminding you we are a beautifully musical people on a distinctly musical planet. And I will see you next time for Earth Tones, episode 20.